Welcome in everyone, James here and continuing my series on Guild Boss High Scores. In this video I am talking about the Hydra. This one is one of my favorite bosses and the best class to use for this boss is Warrior. Now it's got two forms. In its regular form it is resistant to expose, but it has more health, so there's more room for you to punch it and you can deal a little bit more damage before you have to finish the rounds with a rage. In its zappy form, it is vulnerable to expose, so it's easier to expose it, but it doesn't have as much health, so you can't punch it as much. So you have to weigh up the options there and decide which way you're going to tackle it. This is the build that I am using. This is my mythic armor. It's got 24 hero charms and they are all warrior. It's got 1 exposed chance on it, and if I pair that with the 100% exposed that I have on my low level guild boss weapon, it will guarantee expose even on the form where it is resistant to expose, and I'm using it with the Maverick Gauntlet. The heroes that I am using are Hermes for his max star perk, which will add plus a 30% chance to crit for other warrior heroes, or if you don't have Hermes max stars, you can use Hydra because his max star perk is exactly the same. And then for damage, I have got Garen. He is cult type distributor, and if you have him max stars, he gets 50% chance to crit against cult enemies. So if you have him max stars and you have Hydra max stars or Hermes max stars, them together will make the crit chance 80%, and then adding on whatever is on your library, it will make it pretty difficult for it not to crit basically when you're stacking these two heroes together. And I've got some power potions as well, and this combo is still incredibly good for high scores, but just recently it has been overshadowed quite a bit since they released Queen Critter and Bacon and buffed Balendu. It's possible to get much higher scores versus the bosses that they are strong against than it is on the Hydra. I had multiple world records from the Hydra from using Garen back at the level 60 cap, but other contenders have come in and now it's possible to score a lot higher with Balendu. Balendu is now the strongest guild boss hero in the game, so even though you can get high, you can't get as high as you can versus Avatar of Ocean these days. But I will show you the method anyway. And the first 2 rounds, as ever, I am just using rage potions. However, because this is the Hydra and it's a high level boss, you can punch it once in round 1 and round 2. In round 3, you can punch it twice if it doesn't crit. Okay, if you first punch crits, then you can't punch it twice. But if your first punch doesn't crit, then you can punch it twice. Because I've done 2 rounds in 1 turn each, I've got 2 turns for all the rest of the rounds now. So I can spend those 2 turns by finishing the first one with a swing of the weapon to guarantee expose every single round. On round 4, you can punch 3 times. And see there, inflicting expose with the weapon at the end of the turn. And just ending the rounds with a Garen Rage and hoping that it crits basically. Even though I've got like 90% chance for it to crit. It's worth adding as well that the only way to increase a hero's crit chance is by these max star bonuses or from the library. Focus and all the rest of that stuff, it only applies to you, it does not apply to your heroes, because that is one of the most frequently asked questions I see in the community. And even with all the bonuses that I have here, the crits do fail every now and then as well, so hoping for crits, and not just crits, but hoping for crits at the top of Garen's damage range, because the range between his lowest and highest damage is quite large, and he is purple as well, so his highest damage is not as good as some of those unique heroes that we use in the guild bosses, so you do have to try and push Garen to his limits, which there's a lot of RNG in that and a lot of crossed fingers. And as you can see, now we are in round 6. It's starting to become incredibly tanky. Now before, I used to use the mythic axe to maximize damage here, but because we punch a lot harder, the mythic axe is no longer viable for this boss. Well, mine isn't anyway, because mine is level 60. So if you mix that with the punches, it deals too much damage. So I've had to rethink my strategy here a little bit, but that is the method. You are basically just trying to maximize damage every single turn, and because the Hydra is pretty tanky, you have a lot of room to do that with your punches and your weapon. There's a lot more wiggle room than the other bosses that I have been covering in this series, because the Hydra is a little bit more tanky. And in this run, it's got 39 million, which is nowhere near as high as is possible. But this is just to show you the method. And that is it from me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I have been James B09. Good luck out there.